because the text messages were starting to come in from my colleagues, then we started building up a picture of everything which was going off out and around us.
We had texted Kevin to find out what was happening. They told us, whatever you do, keep out of the way, keep hiding. This is a big terrorist attack.
Stephen Wysocki hears about the attack on the bus 6 kilometers away and calls his boss, Nick Frazier.
One of the men from my department called me on the bus, and because we had decided to be extremely quiet, I answered it real quick, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Can you talk?"
His words were, "We're trapped on the bus," and I asked him if he can talk, and he said, "We can't talk now."
He said, "Okay, good luck." And so I hung up with him, and at that point I thought, okay, now at least everyone knows what's going on. It made me feel a bit better. It never crossed my mind to ask him, "Are you in danger?" Because I was very much in the bus, and it's only the bus that's getting attacked. So after about 40 minutes, you could hear the gunfire getting closer and closer and closer to the bus. Bullets were hitting the side of the bus and coming through the windshield. And then all of a sudden, you could hear a giant explosion. The mood in the bus changed quite a bit. There was no more hope. There was just the inevitability that we were all going to die. And then, just like someone flipped the switch, it was really, really quiet. It all stopped.
Nick Frazier and all the passengers on the bus are escorted to safety by the Algerian Army.
And that's when the military told us the base and the plant had been captured. And we got confirmation that Paul had been killed.
Paul Morgan is the first fatality. He had repeatedly complained that security at the plant was inadequate. Just 3 days before the attack, he met with colleagues to tell them he was leaving. He felt the foreign workers were not safe and was frustrated that he could no longer do his job properly. The world's media are waking up to a news story, and Kevin's son sends him a text.
We had news coming through that somebody had been killed, but we didn't have any names. I got the confirmation from a friend of mine who was on the bus that it was Paul. That really broke it home how serious it was. Nothing more than I can say. Just got it confirmed that Paul Morgan was a fatality. Then you know it's for real. Not change the situation. You know, you knew that they were there to kill you then.
The terrorists search the site quickly and methodically. They seem to know the layout of the buildings. One group takes foreign hostages deep into the central processing facility, while the other group at the Bastavie living quarters round up over 30 foreign workers. They assemble them in a central plaza. The militants are not interested in holding the Algerian workers, but although free to go, many stay to protest and help their foreign colleagues. The terrorists are organized and purposefully expose the hostages to a terrifying experience, in full view of anyone watching from above.
They started to roll out some explosive detonating wire. They looped it round each of the hostages' necks. At the end of this explosive wire, they had a block of explosive, and at the other end, they had a hand detonation device to which one of the terrorists was holding onto. He indicated the wire was disturbed in any way, then the explosive would even a slight movement, then you were having to consider the person which was to your left or your right, because the loop would have tightened on their neck.
The terrorists reveal their identity to the hostages as the Signed in Blood Battalion, an Al-Qaeda offshoot that has established a base in northern Mali, a mixed group of jihadists from Tunisia, Mali, Libya, and Niger. Interpreting was not anyone from the region, but a pale, slight young man wearing John Lennon-style glasses.
The Canadian terrorists proceeded to tell us that they were Al-Qaeda. They did not want to harm anybody, but they wanted to have safe passage with the hostages to the En Aménas airport. From there, they wanted a flight to take the hostages to northern Mali, which a region they now control. And from there, they would negotiate the prisoner exchange for Al-Qaeda prisoners held throughout the United States.
The 22-year-old Canadian is a convert called Christos Katsarubas. He orders the hostages to tell the world about the raid. At 6 a.m., a Mauritanian journalist gets a call from the Signed in Blood headquarters in Mali.
2 minutes après, je reçois un appel et c'était effectivement Jules Habib lui-même qui m'appelle.
2 minutes later, I got a call from Jules Habib himself.
Donc j'ai essayé de te joindre pour te dire que...
He said, I am calling to tell you that we have just launched an operation in southeast Algeria and have taken over 40 hostages from different nations.
Nous avons attaqué l'une des bases les plus importantes
We attacked one of the most important bases of the oil and gas industry in Algeria.
pétrolière et gazière en Algérie.
The leadership of the Signed in Blood Battalion signals to the world who they're dealing with. Moktar Belmoktar, the mastermind behind the attack.
Belmoktar is crafty, intelligent, and fearless.
Belmoktar is notorious for multi-million-dollar hostages for ransom operations.
He's as much a criminal as a terrorist, which is sort of interesting. Sometimes terrorists won't engage in criminal activities, but sometimes they will. And in his case, certainly they've got a large war chest because they've been kidnapping foreigners, Westerners in that area for years.
He sees himself as the main jihadist for the Sahara branch, but also the go-to guy in terms of efforts to liberate parts of the Sahara from Westerners like the French or potentially like the Americans.
The Algerian Army mobilizes within 2 hours of the attack under the command of General Tartag, known in Algeria as the Eradicator.
So their response was trying to bring all their assets to bear in order to end this very quickly, because their focus is protecting their assets and no negotiations with terrorism.
Belmoktar's men send out messages that the central processing facility is wired with explosives. One of them orders captive systems supervisor Gary Barlow to call his wife Lorraine in Liverpool.
He said, you need to listen to what I've got to say. It's very important. He said, I've been taken hostage by Al-Qaeda, Mujahideen, and they have strapped explosives to me. He said, you need to contact the British government to tell them that if they storm the plant, they're going to blow it up.
International governments make offers of support to Algeria to coordinate a response.
still a sovereign country, so you have to work with that sovereign nation to be allowed to go in, and at every level trying to get the Algerians to allow our surgical teams to go in there and get involved on the ground.
The Algerians' willingness to work with the international community doesn't ring true with former jihadist Moktar Belmoktar.
Just end the situation. That's the orders they give from Algeria, the capital, you know. End the situation. Terminate everybody. That's it. We're not going to accept that. We don't negotiate. There's no media interviews. There is no communications whatsoever. Just go there militarily. They need war. They got it. We deliver to them.
Abdul al-Najiri, a seasoned jihadist from Niger, calls an Algerian army officer and tells him to come to the front gate to start negotiations face to face. This is the recording of the actual conversation. This request for prisoner release is likely to be denied. The military fought a long and bloody war with Islamic militants in the 1990s, which left over 150,000 dead. They're old enemies. Nightfall in the desert brings freezing cold conditions and fading hopes of rescue. Dave Murray wraps himself in a prayer mat while the men in the canteen roof huddle to keep warm.
Well, I was staring up into the night sky, which was crystal clear. Thinking the worst. I was thinking, okay, have I got my finances in order at home?
Next morning, the Algerian Army moves into position. 6,000 soldiers, helicopter gunships, and special forces.
I was awoken with helicopters. There were helicopters overhead, and there was a massive, massive gunfight.
The army began a sustained bombardment, concentrating its shelling power on the living quarters where Stephen McFall and the other hostages have spent a cold night.
The incoming tank rounds are striking buildings adjacent to where we were held captive. One in particular hit the canteen building.
Those explosions were so big that it wasn't going to kill one of us, it was going to kill the whole three of us.
Then, out of nowhere, is the helicopter and gunship. It appeared and fired 2 rockets into the camp. At that point, I didn't know how to be more afraid of the guy beside me who's holding the detonator for the explosive, or to be more afraid of these military personnel coming in the helicopters, because none of them had any intentions of seeing me home safe.
The hard and fast response of the army provokes the terrorists to make a series of calls. Stephen McFall is made to speak to TV channel Al Jazeera to show the world that the Algerian army has no regard for the foreign hostages. This is the actual recording.
Look, if you listen in the background, you'll hear the military firing all the time. We're all wired up to explosives, and the message does not seem to be getting through to the military here at the front line.
The terrorists now realize the hostages offer little leverage.
I think it was a surprise, shock for everybody. So that's why they start just to come up with like emergency plans, you know, and using mobile phones, you know, from anyone just managed to get to the any TV channel, you know, satellite channel, and giving them demand. They ask for the release of prisoners in Saudi Arabia, which is a joke.
The relentless military assault on the plaza forces the terrorists to take drastic action.
They started whipping themselves up into a frenzy for what was going to be a daring move by them to try and move us from one location to another.
The terrorists know that the central processing facility is not under fire, but to get there they have to risk a 5-kilometer journey along an exposed desert road.
I noticed some military vehicles, and I made a comment to the Canadian terrorists that there was military there. They were not going to let us pass freely down this road. And he says, well, we're going to fabricate explosives and transport them in each of the vehicles, and if the military tried to stop them from getting to the facility, they're going to detonate the explosives in the vehicles and take the vehicles out.
The jihadists force the hostages into 5 SUVs and head toward the central processing facility 5 kilometers north. Their gamble is that the army won't attack the plant, Algeria's most valuable asset. At least one helicopter gunship is in pursuit of the convoy.
The seat behind the driver was the Canadian terrorist, and he had held on his lap this explosive device that they had constructed. This could be the end. Ultimately, this could be where it's finished for us.
Kevin Graham is still hiding at the central processing facility and hears the helicopters.
So we're looking out from our offices, and there was the gunships coming down in big circles. And then we're looking up the road, and we're seeing vehicles coming down the road from the Basta V towards the gas plant.
One of the vehicles in the convoy has went off-road almost immediately after exiting the camp. Then the bullets from the gunship striking the vehicle.
And we're watching the helicopters, and then just open fire. Oh, what I can say is they were just shooting at anything.
At this point, I look out the rear window and I see a low-flying helicopter gunship coming in. I noticed the bullets striking the ground and leading right up to our vehicle and then striking our vehicle.
Only meters from the central processing facility, McFall's vehicle comes to a rest on its roof.
We're starting to cheer. Go on, shoot the bastards, kill them. Now, we're thinking that these are terrorists.
This Canadian terrorist tries to detonate the explosive device which he has carried into the vehicle with him. You can hear the hissing noise from the detonator trying to go off. All the time I was thinking, I need to get as much distance between me and this vehicle because that is going to explode at any minute. So I started to move it back in the direction that we had travelled towards the base of the V.
The Canadian terrorist does not detonate his bomb and heads toward the central processing facility.
I was only away from the vehicle 50 yards. And I noticed a helicopter coming back round, and I was waving with my hands in the air.
Hey! Hey!
And I have a paranoid thought then to don't be waving at them because they have potentially messed up here, and it would probably be easier for them if none of us survived this. Once it was over and started running, what I run towards is just carnage. Just blood, human tissue, stuck to the metal of this exploded vehicle. But it's the body parts, and the body parts are just strewn all over the ground.
27 hostages are killed during the attack on the convoy. 7 survive. One of those survivors, Angelito Manoa, a 41-year-old engineer from the Philippines, is found seriously injured by McFall in one of the 5 vehicles.
We set Angelito upright behind the wreckage to give him some cover, and then from there we made the decision to run and try and get some assistance.
McFall and 4 of the survivors walk back toward the Bastille, now controlled by the army.
I took my top off to indicate to the military that we weren't terrorists and we didn't have explosives strapped to us.
McFall and the other workers asked the soldiers to help Angelito, their injured co-worker.
We were telling them that there's 2 injured people just not far away, they need to go and retrieve them from this thing, but they refused. They just point blank refused.
Severely injured Angelito stumbles in the opposite direction, into the central processing facility, which the remaining terrorists control.
When it first hit me that it wasn't just terrorists that was in them vehicles coming down from the Bastille, was when I seen Angelito walk through the gate. Well, that got me thinking, bloody heck, where's Angelito come from?
Angelito needs urgent medical attention. Kevin Graham decides to break cover to find his friend David Murray, who has first aid experience.
I heard somebody calling my name. I still stayed where I was, even though I recognised the guy's voice.
Look, I need your help, man.
Got to the end office, and I thought it was the closest one is. There's something. He's got to be in there.
Davey, you in there?
I stayed where I was.
Davey.
And then I was kicking all the doors, banging on all the doors, screaming, shooting, come on, get out, you little scout sod, I know you're in here. Come out, come out.
I don't know whether he had one of the terrorists had the gun on him, asking him, shout your friends out, bring your friends out.
I'll give him his due, like, he wasn't taking just me as being safe, like, you know. And I had to virtually swear blind that it was me. Honest to God's truth, mate, there's no terrorists here, it's just me.
I'm sure his words were, there's been a massive explosion outside, vehicles have been blown up. Can you come and help us? We've got 2 injured guys. We need you to help.
Oh, come on!
Eventually, I knew there was no one with him because of what he was shouting. Because he wouldn't shout the way he was shouting if he had someone with him.
So then the little click of the door clicked. And out he came. Had a little smile on his face. Aye. With his little beanie cap on. Yeah, just got to see him. Happy. Yeah, happy.
I then went back up to our office, grabbed the first aid kit. I came back down to where their office was.
Got him in the office, and, you know, I was saying, right, mate, you're safe now. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was covered in blood, his hearing was shot, you could smell the explosives on his clothing. He had a massive chunk of the back of his head was flapping loose. He had a gash across his eye.
But I administered that first aid as best we could with what we had there.
I tried to to clean them up with water the best we could. I mean, the first aid kits didn't have much in, but we tried to clean them up. There was an Algerian guy who was hiding in the other office, and all through this he was taking photographs.
Jesus.
And he said he's keeping the photographs as a record for later.
This photograph was taken by an Algerian worker to show the world the horror the hostages endured. The terrorists have spotted the foreign workers helping Angelito.
They're coming, Davy. Davy, they're coming.
Everybody ran for cover.
Get in the office, get in the office. Everybody just piled back into the office. Filing cabinet up against the door. And then you hear the double doors come open.
The two guys we tried to help, they were in the main office.
We heard them say to Angel in English, "Who helped you? Who was the third man? Who was the third man? Who do your dressings?"
He was kicking them. Who helped you? Who helped you?
And this questioning seemed to go on forever.
They dragged them off the floor and they took them away. We heard 2 shots fired. My guilt now is that we didn't try to drag them into the office with us. But if we'd have tried to drag them into the office, then none of us would be here. And that's the bit I can't